Welcome to Tampa Talk with Mary. Welcome to the show that only airs once a month. Quick story. I'm trying to be better about my period, right? As this whole show has been a detailed journey of me actively trying to do that. I recently re-certified for CPR and first aid. So I now have a first aid kit. My parents, when I told them about this, I was like, I'm trying to build a first aid kit, these are some things I have in it, and my dad's a cop and my mom's a substance abuse counselor, and both of them at the same time were like, would you like us to mail you Bandcamp? And for those listeners that may or may not know, that's something that you either shoot in the nose or the thigh of someone who is overdosing on drugs to save their life. Today, they came at a time of recording, 2 things of Narcan were mailed through the UPS to my address for my first aid kit. And while I was making that, I made my period readiness kit, including fab bags from, you heard about them in the last few episodes. They're in my cute little Jubilance bag that they gave me, super cute little bag. Jubilance is also in there. Advil, pads, tampons, Diva Cup. I'll probably leave this at home when I actually have a period, but I did it. Anyway, my guest today is super spectacular. She's been on the show twice before. The most recent one, we were talking about Goop. It was her and me and a bunch of bros. Great episode. And the other episode, we were doing a period quiz between her now husband and my fiance waiting to become my husband, about who knew most about periods. And her husband did lose, and the price was that she got to kick him in the nuts. So that was fun. But she's super talented, scriptwriter, a love of my life. Claire, hello Claire.
Hi.
Well, I mean, I sort of tooted your horn a little bit. Tell for the third person in the room. This is always the awkward part. Just a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, I do a little bit of script writing. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm an administrative assistant. So that's kind of fun.
You're very smart. Incredibly thorough. Back when we were in college, we did a script writing class together, and Claire cut my bullshit. She was like, listen, I have a theater background, so I have all of my characters would do a monologue about and tell you exactly how they were feeling. Nothing was left to the imagination, and Claire was like, cut that bullshit.
She'd tell an entire story in monologue if she could do it, but yeah, that doesn't really work on the screen.
No, it don't work.
Yeah.
So she threw me through the ringer with that. And she, I specifically remember there was one script that she did that was like 5 pages long, and she built literally an entire world in 5 pages. And I don't know who, besides J.R.R. Tolkien, when he was first starting to do Lord of the Rings, how the fuck does anybody do that? I don't know. But yes, you're very talented.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, I've been wanting to do this episode because, we talk about our periods all the time, off air, and I was like, well, what the fuck are we doing?
Over wine, very loudly in front of all the men in the room. Yes. Don't even care.
The men in our lives are so the stereotypical thing of just men being uncomfortable, non-existent.
They're so used to it at this point, but honestly, we wouldn't be with them if they weren't already used to it.
Amen
to
that. Real talk, most men should be this way anyway, and now it almost feels jarring when they're not, and it's
when they're super awkward about it.
Who are you? I don't know if that's also the effect of Gen Z. I feel like Gen Z has this no bullshit attitude of well, duh. I feel like they're very much that way with the environment or even BLM, where they're well, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
and I just wish more people were like that. I admire. I think we're both technically in that generation. I don't necessarily feel like I am.
Yeah.
I feel like also Gen Zs are Zers.
I think it's Gen Zers. Yeah.
They're all fucking hot. They're all so
hot.
hot.
And I'm just sitting here real awkward looking.
And I'm not. And I don't feel like that.
We're just walking over here to your place. We're coming across people, and there's just 5 different people taking photographs in the park.
Oh my.
And I'm sitting here like, I still struggle with the selfie sometimes. I'm a little awkward.
Yeah, like, or just, they can go comfortably into a Sephora and know exactly what they need, and I don't know what that's like.
I come out and I'm like, I'm really light, and they're like, here, take this marshmallow toned, like, stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it on, and I'm like, yeah, I look like a freaking marshmallow. You're not right. But I don't know what I'm looking for. I walk in and I just go, something that works, okay?
This thing of like all my Gen Z mamacitas having like really long, beautiful nails all the time, and like drinking Starbucks and only having
the
coffee.
fact that they will actually put the effort into curling their hair every single day.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, please, I get up like 20 minutes before I have to leave. I barely have time to decide what I want to wear, let alone curl my hair.
And literally like the last week, so the last episode that is prior to this, is that I talked to two Gen Zers who are doing, and they're fabulous. Rachel and Anna, and they're in Baltimore, and they're part of the Homeless Period Project. Rachel's a little bit older, but Anna married her husband at 19. And like they're like our age and stuff, and I was like, what? Let's go off. And they started their own nonprofit where they're working with people in Baltimore. They're both stupid gorgeous, and the one that has husband's in a house with a husband and a dog, and they're both in law school.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, what? I don't post up for myself. You know
went
what I
to
mean?
art school. That
We
was
went
mistake.
I cannot stress this enough. There's a lot of great art schools. We went to the shittiest art school, the worst one to go
barely
to.
call it an art school. Its programs were like the bare bones. Like, we have one thing, guys.
To meet an all-round degree, they met like literally the minimum requirements. They're like, here's a BS science class and here's a BS math class, and you only took one.
I know.
Horrible. That is a whole rant in itself, and we've brought a few of the professors on the show before. Like I'm gonna toot my own horn for a second. I feel like I've captured the good professors that were at this university.
Sure.
The ones that were willing to come on the show, we got them on. I think we got some gems, I will say.
Oh yeah, the school had a few gems, but man, that administration.
But oh my God. And fun fact, all of the professors that have been on Tampon Talk are all no longer working at the school.
For good reason.
Officially all of them.
The good ones don't last very long.
No, they don't. They're like, oh my gosh, you're qualified? Wow, you're great with the students. Could you leave? It's horrible.
You actually have a PhD?
What
you do?
You've done 17 years of theater, and we want you to be the head of the theater department? You should leave.
Also, you should probably not stay here for very long. I think a year is your time.
Yeah.
To just sleep.
Despicable place. You should look it up.
But be quiet when you leave. Just kind of drift away during break, and everybody just kind of like, where the heck did they go?
And they have this thing where they're like, oh, we're like a family environment. We love when like professors have 1 million kids, and then they fire the exact professors with 1 million kids.
Because they can't work 72 hours a week.
I cannot.
What the heck? Family time's a thing?
Awful, despicable. But we grown beyond that.
Oh hell yeah.
Screw them. We, when they go low, and let me tell you, they have gone very low. We go high. Michelle Obama, give it up. But we do the segment on the show called Tampon Terror. We were talking before time of recording, which is right now, that you do not have a tampon terror story that you feel,
true.
but because. And I think for menstruators who desire like specific ASMR, I would love if you could just describe what you described to me of your period readiness pack, or how fucking prepared you get for your periods. Like, it brought me my blood pressure like went down when you were talking about this.
So I'd always keep with me, I have this little bag that I keep tampons in, I keep pads in, I keep like an extra pair of underwear in, and it's in a plastic bag, so I have like a bag for the soiled one just in case,
Very nice.
and I keep Advil in there, and I keep the fab little bags in there, but I have everything prepared in this little zip bag so that if my period comes, I am prepared. I have the extra tampons, I have the pads, I have anything that I need for it, just in case, because I really don't want to be caught with, a little disaster.
Oh, for sure.
And when in school, I used to also have with me in the trunk of my car, I would carry an extra pair of pants because you never know when something's going to happen. I was terrified of, anything happening. And also because my sister actually had a really, really heavy flow, and in high school, during her period, there were times where I'd have to come 3 times a week with new pants for her because she would bleed through during class. And so I was anal about making sure I had everything ready to go. So I have actually never had a disaster.
That's amazing. I am your sister. Like, into my adulthood, I am your sister. That's horrible. And for listeners that might be listening to the frat fucks that live next door, that is the constant thudding that you hear. They've been throwing parties and obviously not social distancing during the virus. So if they interrupt the flow, know that...
See, Mary, if you don't believe in the virus, it can't affect you.
That's true. If Rona is a hoax as well as your chance to get laid, then what do you have to lose? Have as many fucking frat parties as you like.
Exactly.
And Preston and I are so old. We're so done. We have a cat. He has a bedtime. We got it.
We're tired at 10 p.m. We're ready to go to bed.
I'm winding down. I'm reading my book in bed. Ridiculous.
Honestly.
But yeah, so there's no segue. I was like, I'm here with an agenda because you have a specific period
yes.
that has caused you problems for as long as I've known you and prior to me knowing you. I'm super fascinated with it. I don't know if you could just kind of give me like the timeline of you got your period, then what happened?
So I didn't actually get my period till I think I was 16 years old at the time, which is late for most people.
Yeah.
And I got the first one, and then I think it was 4 months before I got another one. And it was one of those things where I was questioning it, I was reading about it, and there, articles were saying, it's okay because the first few will probably be further apart, but it kept being far apart. My average period was about 3 months apart. But I think it was around like 60 to up to 80 days apart.
What in the heck?
And so I had no idea, there was no way for me to predict when it was going to come or just like to be prepared for it. So, basically that's where I always had to be prepared for it because you didn't know. And maybe the only warning I would ever get would be like bloating the day before maybe or cramping. But otherwise it would be like, it might come, it might not come. And so I remember, I think it was around, I was 17 when I finally started trying to go to a doctor for it to see what the heck is going on, because it was also my sister who started to have cycle problems as well. But hers was on a different spectrum. Hers was every 2 weeks she would get a period. And
it's like you guys had pieces of each other's period.
Exactly. And so it was crazy difficult.
Yeah.
And so we both ended up trying to go to the doctor for it, but I grew up cradle Catholic, and my mom was always so specific about, we have to go to this Catholic doctor who, is versed in NFP and, all this stuff. So we go to this doctor, and I remember they tried to run a couple of tests, but here's the thing about trying to test for what's wrong with hormones related to fertility is that they want to test you 3 different times, and this is drawing blood 3 different times, to test at the beginning of your cycle, at the middle of your cycle, and in phase 3 of your cycle, so that lasts week and a half, 2 weeks before you get your period.
Yeah.
Wanting to test at all these different levels, but when you don't know when your period is going to happen, you don't know when these different phases are, because the first phase would be, before you ovulate, and then it would be that, phase where you ovulate, and then the phase after you ovulate. So you have to, be testing at all these different times. But I didn't know when was I going to ovulate.
Yeah.
And it would take, 2.5 months, maybe 2 months, whatever it was. So it was really hard to draw blood during those periods. And so I remember they put me on progesterone. And I don't know if anybody has, different people have been on it before, but it was what I was taking was a pill, and you would take it at night. But instant after you take it, you get super drugged on it.
Interesting.
It feels like if you were, had a whole bunch of drinks and then suddenly stood up. And you just kind of like feel your entire body like needing to just collapse. Like gravity is just, hanging on to you there. So it was just the weirdest feeling. So my sister and I, we were both on it. And we tried to take it, but it just made you feel awful.
Yeah.
And I think we were on that for a little while, and I want to say we did get tested, but nothing really came of it. So then another thing that we did was I had an ultrasound to see if I had cysts, because my sister actually does have cysts, and she had one burst.
Oh, interesting.
And that's an extremely painful experience. So it was, do I have cysts, and is that what is causing the problem?
Yeah.
And so I went and I got an ultrasound, and I don't. And the only thing that came of that was that the doctor, and this was with the Catholic doctor, she says that I have thick uterine lining, and she described it in like very childlike terms and things. She's like, so basically, your uterus has earmuffs on, and it can't hear the signals of your hormones telling you to ovulate.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, but what am I supposed to do about that?
Right.
And what does that indicate? Why is it thicker? Does this lead towards like an endometriosis thing?
Yeah.
Why? But I didn't get an answer on that. And so what ended up happening was she goes, well, we'll put you on metformin because your mom has an insulin resistance thing, and it probably runs in the family.
But they didn't test.
They didn't test that. They didn't test specifically
Man.
if I had insulin resistance. And, I want to say this was, the ultrasound I think was closer to when I was like right before I went to college. So it was a distance between when I got tested before my blood was tested. So, but they didn't test it again. And it was frustrating. And then there was another time I went to a completely different OBGYN to go, like an actual OBGYN, to test to see if there was a problem with my hormones, and nothing. It was frustrating. And so right after that I went to school, and my insurance didn't cover me to just go to like regular doctors while I was in school, so I didn't have anything at that point. I just had to, deal with it throughout school and just hope that things worked out. But the problem with that is that because my periods were so far apart, when I would have them, it was so painful because all of that uterine lining that's building up between your periods, usually you would shed it every single month.
Yeah.
I had so much more time, so it was thicker, and so it was a lot more to shed, and it hurt so bad. So I want to say that first day of my period was basically, I was hot and cold flashes, feverish, laying in bed, and I was taking tons and tons of I had from these like high level painkillers from when I got my wisdom teeth removed, and I would take those every single time I would get a period. I think it was about 800 milligrams. So I would take those, and then after that it would be just like ibuprofen to add on to it.
Yeah.
And then that first day, so it was just laying in bed, cramping all day, and I didn't go to class, I didn't go to meetings, I had to cancel all that because I couldn't get out of bed. It was super painful. After that it was okay. I didn't cramp as much, but it still sucked.
Yeah.
So that would be, so again through school I would never really know. And then it became more of a problem for me when I got engaged and I was getting ready to be married. And again, if you grow up Catholic, what's drilled into your head is you have to do NFP.
And if you could, because I don't know if listeners fully get, if you just kind of briefly give us
So
what
NFP stands for Natural Family Planning. It is the only thing that you're allowed to do as a Catholic. And it's basically you tracking your cycle from, the day you first get your period until your next period. And it's tracking your temperature to find out when you ovulate so that you can avoid having sex during periods that you're fertile.
Yeah.
If you're trying not to have children, that is your only way of avoiding children. If you're trying to have children, it can be useful for some people in that capacity because you do, in some respects, you do learn a lot about your body by trying to do it, but when you're trying to avoid a pregnancy and you have no idea when you're ovulating or like when is that going to happen? And when it comes to help you understand, for NFP, the phase 2 section would be considered when you're fertile.
Yeah.
And it's based off of cervical mucus. And so once you start getting cervical mucus after your period, you're in phase 2. And during phase 2, you're risking pregnancy if you do have sex. So my phase 2 was probably a month and a half long.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't think I can do that.
This ain't gonna work.
I don't think I can do that.
And like this particular practice isn't necessarily just strictly associated with Catholics. It's in the regular world there's kind of this like holistic movement around people who want to be like eco-friendly or, you know, more health conscious about sexology. They just refer to it as natural birth control. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. For just any
and there's a couple of different methods that you can do mm-hmm. that, you know, go based off of, you know, testing hormones every day, like by peeing on a stick. There's a couple of different ways that you can do it. The way that I was learned was, or I was taught, sorry.
We all learn what we do.
The way I was taught was you would take your temperature every day at the same time every morning. And I think mine I would have to test at like 6:45 every day because that was, you know, when I'd have to get up for work. So regardless of the weekend, you would still have to wake up at that time. And so it's testing basal body temperature. And then to add on that, you're, you know, paying close attention to your cervical mucus, mm-hmm. which they have different little terms for like the texture of it. And then the other one was looking at feeling your cervix to see how open it is, which is really weird to do. It's really weird to do. It's kind of difficult to get the hang of, and I felt super weird shoving my fingers up my vagina in the morning to try and figure out where my cervix was at. I'm not gonna lie. Still don't fully understand that one. Something to do with pears and noses. I don't know. That's their little description of like what it's supposed to feel like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was the method that I learned, and because that's what my mother taught, and my mom's super, super into it.
Yeah.
But for me, with having such an inconsistent period, it just became really difficult, and I would just be stuck in phase 2 forever. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, when I moved to California, and it was right after I got married. For that first portion after we got married, we were forced to do NFP because it was the only thing that we had. Mm-hmm. And because of the type of insurance my parents had, I wasn't covered in California, and then they cut me off as soon as I got married because mm-hmm. it was something to do. They said that I couldn't be on there if I was married.
Oh, like tax-wise, like if you are legally married.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with that because I'm not sure exactly how their system went, but my dad is self-employed, and so they were getting insurance through the state. Mm. So with their situation, I couldn't be on it, and so then I had to get insurance right after we got married, but my husband also he didn't get insurance through work.
You're right.
Because he was considered an independent contractor. It was kind of a weird setup for where he was working at the time, but they didn't offer insurance. And so I had to get it through, I think it was through Cover California. But that was a process to get it started, and when I finally got it going, I was like, finally. I went to the doctor, and they went through blood tests, which all came back normal. And then I went and I did an ultrasound, and I guess the only way I could put it is it was kind of vaginal probing. I don't know. They stuck a thing up my vagina. And they, probed around in there.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and it was to check to see if there was any problems in, lining. Could this be, like, I don't know if they also did pap smear checking out, is this a cancer thing? Is this, like, a uterine thing? Do you have cysts? Do you have, thick lining in this way, that way? So did all of those different tests, and that seemed to come back fairly normal. I didn't, they didn't explain that super well, because the thing is I got that done, and the doctor I was seeing at the time, she was just a, general doctor. She didn't really know.
Yeah.
And so she sent me to an OBGYN, and the OBGYN looked at it and, briefly looked over it and said, this is probably a PCOS thing, and so, if you're not trying to have children, then, you can take birth control and that'll regulate you. And so at the time I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want normalcy. I want it to stop being so inconsistent. And yes, I do not want to have kids right now.
Right.
And so I did start that. And that has given me, I've been on it for, I want to say 8 months now. But that has given me a normalcy in that now I know exactly the day I'm going to have a period, and I can always be prepared for it. And that has also, the bleeding is less, and I do not cramp as bad anymore. In fact, most of the time I don't even cramp at all. And that was huge difference for me. But just, honestly, just being able to breathe and go, oh my gosh, I finally know when I'm going to have a period. It was everything I always wanted.
Yeah.
So, but to this day, I still don't know exactly what it is. I've, had multiple times tossed around it's PCOS, but trying to research PCOS myself, it just seems that it was like a blanket term for what I had. Yeah. And even then, I didn't have as many of the symptoms of PCOS as, other people had, where another thing with PCOS is a lot of times you end up growing a lot more like hair, facial hair and stuff like that, or you have a problem with weight gain. But I didn't have that. What I had was, it was just a very irregular period. But I never really got an answer on it, and I still don't know, and it seems, every time I go to a doctor, a different doctor, and I've been to a couple of different ones, everything just kind of comes back normal, but also I still have a very irregular period. So it's just, I don't know. And I even checked, because my mom was trying to figure out what it was for a while too, and she's like, oh, have your thyroids checked. That came back fine as well.
Oh, so you wouldn't have like a thyroid condition?
Yeah, because thyroid does have a play in fertility, and if you're really low, then it can cause you not to be cycling right. Yeah. But that came back normal as well, and so I still don't know.
Is that frustrating to just be like, I don't have the answer?
Absolutely, because I don't know, what do you do about it?
Right.
And so I don't know, it's just, and it's frustrating to go on different medications, especially when they kind of put you on stuff without really a good idea of what's going on. It's just, it's annoying. Yeah. So I remember I was on metformin for a little bit because of the insulin resistance thing. And some people have had success with metformin, but I also really don't like being thrown on things without solid reason to be thrown on it. Right. And if you've never taken metformin before, it gives you the shits real bad. And I'm not gonna lie, that was not fun.
No, not ideal.
Not fun at all. And I was like, does this ever go away? It didn't. The doctor said, it was like, oh yeah, after a while your body will just kind of get used to it and it'll stop giving you the shit. It's been 8 months. And I was like, this still isn't going away. I don't think I lasted on that one for very long. And I was like, I'll just keep up with it. And I was like, no, I can't handle this.
Is that so, because I'm not entirely familiar with it, is there just more progesterone in that?
In metformin?
Is it hormonal?
No, not in the least. It's, I want to say it's, I think it's a diabetes medication. Oh. And I could be wrong on that, but I want to say it's related to diabetes because it's for people who have an insulin problem or insulin resistance, and so they put you on it so that your body can process sugars and other things better.
Interesting.
And they didn't give me a whole lot of information about it when they put me on it.
How that relates to your period
I
situation?
I don't know. They didn't tell me. They didn't tell me how it was supposed to fix it. They just went, here, take this. It should fix the problem. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to fix my problem. But I've heard it being I've seen it talked about in other areas, so I know it's been used in relation to cycles, but I still don't understand exactly how it was supposed to play into it. But it's something to do with insulin. And I guess that in some capacity relates to hormones for cycling. I don't know.
So weird.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most frustrating thing going to doctors is that, even as a teenager going to the doctor, is that nobody wants to talk to you like you could understand what they're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
They don't want to explain to you these are the different hormones that play into your cycle. These are the ones we're going to look at. This is what they should be in. People, they don't want to tell you about all this stuff because they kind of give you this idea. They think that you couldn't understand what's going on. Yeah. But the thing is that if they can't answer my questions, I'd like to be able to go to another doctor and say, this is what I've looked at before.
Right.
And these are my results. So because I don't like restarting the testing process every time. Because every time I go to a new doctor, they're like,
do it all over again.
They're like, oh, let's test your blood and let's see what your hormones are at. And I'm like, cool, I will voluntarily get poked with a needle again.
Yeah.
Let's do an ultrasound. And I'm like, cool, I'll get cold jelly on my stomach again and, get probed. So whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, I'd like to be able to go somewhere with an understanding of what's going on and to be able to articulate what I've done before so that we don't have to keep repeating the same process.
Right.
But yeah, any time I've gone to the doctor, it was either I don't really know what's going on or, they don't actually explain it to me. Frustrating.
And I think you represent like a lot of women experiencing the same exact thing where they're just going in and they're either getting talked down to, down, or their pain is being downplayed, or they just don't have an answer. And we talked to a scientist not too long ago on the show. I'm trying to schedule a pelvic therapist very soon, hopefully get that, and then an OBGYN. Yeah. They have to talk to lawyers before they come in here. But the frustration, at least with the scientists when we talked about it like a long, long time ago, is that the studies around menstruation and periods and like all these other like associated things like endometriosis and PMS and stuff is new because no one cares to study about it at all. And I think that's remarkable, and I think could contribute to why even I'm experiencing the same thing, going into a hospital or a doctor setting and not getting an answer. Yeah, and that's frustrating.
Well, they a lot of times they don't really know because, like you said, there's not a lot of study in it, and that's why if you look into how many women are affected by PCOS, it's kind of a large amount, but it's one of those things that I could probably tell you that not a lot of these women have like super similar symptoms aside from maybe blanket terms like my cycle's irregular and I have like this and that. But, to be kind of blanketed in this term because there's not a lot of idea of actually what's going on, it's frustrating because there's not... Metformin is one of the things that they put you on for PCOS, but it's also one of those things where I go, yeah, but do I really have that? Because it doesn't seem like I do. Yeah. But, you'd like to feel like your case might be more personal because that's kind of how most people are. Right. And that they could give you a better answer, but it's just nobody really seems to understand. And so they just kind of blanket a term over.
And to even be like set back in your personal background of being religious, which this is the thing that like always boggles my mind is that particularly in Catholicism there is a huge focus on like you've got to make children, you have to have intercourse, and like small children have to come out of your body. Like
if you're gonna get married, you have to have children because why the hell else would you get married? It's not like you might get married because you want to have, you're in a relationship with this person and you really love them and you want to have a life with them, but
it's just like sex.
It's children.
It's just children. And it's crazy that like there is like say NFP is a valid thing, right? If people really want to do it, and say their cycle is maybe, on scientific terms, objectively normal. That's something that could work
and
for them, for sure.
Can be, you can learn a lot about your cycle by doing it. For those who do it, it can be fantastic for knowledge because you learn a lot about your body. Not even just like infertility, but you can learn so many other things. But, I don't know, I think it also, it can get a bad rep because it's so pushed by Catholics. But they're, for those who do it, can be awesome, but it did not work for me.
And I think that at least when I had taken an NFP class, is that it was targeted for a specific use where it was like, this is how you use it to get pregnant, and like don't do anything else because if you do anything else you won't be able to have children, and that's like the end all be all.
And the funny thing is so in college, we both had to take a marriage and family course. Yeah. Of course. Catholic college, you gotta take that. Do it. And one of the discussions that happened in there was always NFP. Always. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest debates, and I remember in my particular class, we spent 3 weeks discussing if NFP was birth control if you used it to avoid children.
Christ almighty.
And we couldn't even settle it. You know, for those of us who were like, no, it's fine, and then for the, you know, the people who were like, no, it's not, you just couldn't find the middle ground. For the life of them, you just couldn't.
Prude, cis, hetero males who were like, well, if I can't have sex with my wife whenever I want, and especially during a period when she's most fertile, this must be sinful.
Well, yes. And mind you, none of these guys, if I remember right, were in a relationship at the time.
Had maybe not talked to a woman that they were not biologically related to,
You
until
know?
they had entered a college
Or had
campus.
any idea actually how a period works.
Oh
and,
my
like,
God.
A cycle, and the fact that there are times when you're not fertile. But I remember one of them saying, it was like, no, but you should just like leave it up to God. You have to just trust that if God wants you to have a child, that it's right for you, and that if God doesn't want you to have a child, then that's right for you. It was just all down to just fuck and trust in God.
Yeah, like, Jesus is your birth control.
And I was just sitting here in class, like tapping my fingers on the desk going, have you even had an orgasm?
Yeah, oh my. And
they were all sitting there, they're like, you know what, you know, if you can't have a child financially, then just abstain. And I'm sitting here like, do you know what abstaining for 6 months is like?
What is that? You know, easier said than done. And I specifically because our class dealt with that nightmare, is I brought on that specific professor to talk about it, because they, like, as people were giving answers to why they disagreed with, you know, what you're talking about, is that she had realized, like, oh my God, they don't know anything about the female reproductive system, even remotely. Nope. And our friend Ben, who's been on the show, wanted to put in, like, the critiques for the teacher, because we were talking about it, like, I think there needs to be, like, an anatomy lesson, and I had stepped in and told him, no, they should know it already.
Well, but here's the thing. A lot of the kids that went to this school were homeschooled and did not go through sex education. And they did not go through anatomy and female reproductive systems and how do these things work.
Yeah.
They didn't go through this kind of stuff. And so I hate to say it, but you almost, at that school, you needed that kind of class.
You did.
Because they had no idea how it worked. And let alone how their own bodies worked. Because I'll admit, in a lot of these Catholic sheltered households, these kids have to figure this stuff out on their own.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's stupid. It's super stupid. But yes, he was right. They needed a class on reproductive health, like this kind of stuff, because they had no idea.
And it's so frustrating, because even in, like, a public school or state school circuit, not good. Private school, where I went, not good. and then this college, not good. So it's like, where the hell are you going to get this education?
Of not good we're talking about.
Different variations of bullshit, like, so bad. And
gosh.
And I think that also just, it all ties in together, just like within the medical field or, you know, within religion, is that there are these outside things that are actively against people who menstruate, actively, where it's, you know, say it's women or say it's people who don't identify as women. Like, there are stigmas attached to, and agendas by these specific parties where, you know, maybe they don't want you to learn about these specific things, or they, you know, talking about it is, you know, dirty or gross, but it's all, I get so frustrated because there's always these people with ulterior motives who want to affect the people that are having the periods.
Yeah.
God.
Or it's even like the idea in Catholic families where it's like, if they know about sex, they're going to have sex.
Oh my Lord.
So if they're in the dark, they may never come across it.
Christ.
And there's for some people, unfortunately, it does work.
And I don't really know what the solution is besides just getting more people who care in the field of science and, you know, medicine to deal with it.
And, you know, in some respects, in, you know, the Catholic circles and, like, the Catholic doctors or those who are, you know, leaning more towards NFP, they do their best to study more. Mm-hmm. And that's fantastic. But what I came across myself was just that, you know, for someone who is not looking to have kids, they're geared towards helping people have kids.
Right.
And that's partially, like, part of, learning about fertility is helping people who have irregular periods like mine, figure it out so they can have kids. But in my case, it was like, I'm not looking to have kids. I just want to know what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it was a little harder because, you feel like you're boxed into this, like, but you have to be doing this for, like, marriage and kids and all that. And I was like, but I just want to understand what's wrong with my body so that I can address it. And so that, if I am trying to avoid having kids, that, I can do that and, with knowledge in mind and everything, or even just to understand my body. So it was just, there's some research, but I think that, not all women who are dealing with this problem are Catholics looking to have kids, or, Christians looking to have kids, or even just, women looking to have kids. Some people just want to understand why their bodies are messed up. So, but yeah, I think that, maybe in the future with more millennials and Gen Zers, wanting to understand what's up with their bodies, maybe looking to understand this more, and like more doctors who are trying to look into it. But it's just kind of unfortunate because it feels like, those who are in the field now don't really seem to care about it all that much to understand it, because, if you're not trying to have kids, it's just, take birth control and it'll regulate it, which for some people, and, for myself, it was one of those things where I need the normalcy.
Yeah.
And so I went for that. But they didn't answer what was going on with my body, and when I do eventually go off of it, when I want to have kids, my problem will persist. It'll still be there. The birth control was not going to fix it.
Right.
So, it's a problem that I've just postponed for now. And I would hope that, in a couple of years down the road when I do want to start having kids, maybe there will be a few more doctors in the field who care about trying to figure that kind of stuff out without having to go to a super niche specialized doctor. You'd hope to be able to go to any OBGYN who is supposed to understand these things fully, that you could go to them and, describe your problem, and they would be able to, lead you to a solution. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping in a few years maybe that'll be the case, but it just, it feels like it's a very not pursued field right now. I don't know. And even the thing is that, a lot of insurance companies don't even cover fertility.
Yeah, they don't give a damn.
They don't give a damn, and they don't cover a lot of these, things that if you go to your general doctor, a blood test is going to be covered, but if you're really, like, trying to dive deep in, if you have trouble having kids, they don't always cover fertility stuff. So, it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's super stupid, and it just, feels like as a woman you're just trying to fight against this all the time and just trying to be normal and function normal, and it just doesn't seem like a lot of people care that much about it.
Yeah, and like I think a couple different factors I didn't even really like consider until you had mentioned them is that one, we live in at least in an American healthcare system, which is so broken and capitalist and all this other stuff, is that we live in a culture where we treat the symptom, not the problem.
Correct.
So I think that a lot of women's problems are, your birth control situation, like it's delaying rather than dealing with the actual thing.
Correct.
And I think the other thing is that a dangerous woman is an educated woman. And I think a lot of people are like really afraid when women or, non-binary people who bleed, like they start becoming intelligent and they start, like gaining more information, and then they start actively, dealing with this problem. And I think for a very long time, an educated woman has been a dangerous woman, and like, from, say women being able to, get the right to vote, to women being legally allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. Like, it's that there is an active force against women, gay people, non-binary people, all this, to prevent them from being educated. And we aren't able to just flat out say that, maybe it's patriarchy, maybe there is an identifiable source that is preventing people from doing that. Right. And I think that's delaying us a lot from where we thought we would be in, dystopian future movies, like we'd be so advanced on this topic right now, like we thought we would be, but there are people actively preventing people from doing it. And which makes it harder for people that want to like fix the problem, go into science, go into medicine to deal with this. And it's frustrating, you know, because you just, then you need to get those people into the fold. And then further, like, how other social issues affect this particular one. Like, the black mother mortality rate is ridiculous for a first world country in America right now. Like, Serena Williams, when she had her baby, was, like, such a big thing because she ended up having, like, 7 blood clots, I think, after she had her baby. And no doctor would take her seriously until she, like, screamed and yelled at them. And then they found that. And that's the effects of racism in this country, that, like, what people used to do to black women as slaves to, like, conduct, you know, whatever stuff for science and not treat them human. And that has come into the field of medicine. So black women are more likely to lose their baby in a first world country hospital than a white woman is when they go into the hospital. And we're not talking about that even remotely. Yeah. And that's, like, another aspect of getting more women educated so that, you know, who are in financial positions or educated positions can say, hey, this is wrong, or, you know, like, women you shouldn't have to go into a doctor's office without an answer. Right. Or, you know, you shouldn't go in there being talked down to, or your pain or your situation being belittled. Like,
exactly. And, like, my dream would be for any woman who has this kind of problem that I do, or any, you know, problem with fertility and cycles and all that, to be able to walk into a doctor's office, for them to understand what's going on, and to be able to say, we have birth control as an option, if you would like to take that, but we also have, you know, you can take this as an option to like, if you want to start regulating your own period. And, you know, for some people, yes, birth control is something that they want, because if you're not looking to have kids, it's a perfectly fine option. Yeah. But sometimes it's more or less just wanting an understanding of what's going on. But you should be able to have the right to understand what's going on in your body.
100%.
And the hard thing when it comes to doctors is that when you try to do your research and you try to understand what's going on and you bring your own ideas to it, they always look down on you. Yeah. They're like, no, I'm sorry, but I have the PhD and you don't. And it's like,
well, I'm experiencing this problem.
It seems like you don't understand what's going on, and I'm trying to understand what's going on, and it doesn't seem like you care. So, yeah, like you're saying, you know, education, you really, like, work towards education, and I'm hoping that, you know, as women start to, you know, there's more women who deal with this problem, that there's going to be a few who rise up and go, nope, we're not going to let this continue. Yeah. And, you know, those who, you know, become doctors, study it. That's not really my calling, but...
We need you. Whomever you are, we need you.
You're desperately. Very, very, very much appreciated, because...
You will have lots of business, I promise.
Because there's a chance that, you know, when I have my own children, there's a chance that my daughter might have the same problem, because, you know, if it's a hereditary thing, you know, she might be dealing with the same thing. And I really don't want my daughter to have to go through this kind of thing. Yeah. That would stink.
And, God, yeah. And we need more people that are passionate about dealing with it. It's fine.
That would actually be my birth control alarm.
And what's funny too is that I think people, you know, like you were saying, you know, there's birth control, and then, you know, enough options that aren't birth control for, you know, maybe women that, you know, that's not ideal for them. Yeah. And even within that industry, it's been commercialized, and that the FDA, something that's, like, put in place to protect consumers for, you know, this product meets a certain standard, you know, set by, you know, in this case, the federal government, is that there is a back door for shitty products. Yeah. So, like, any product that's similar to one that's already been approved by the FDA, 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 times gets grandfathered in. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, you know, how the e-shore thing happened. And, like, those women were seeking legislation, which now, as, you know, at time of recording, has turned into a settlement outside of court. So...
as always.
Exactly, where it's like, now, Bayer, B-A-Y-E-R, I think that's how you say it, Bayer, they do, they are now settling out of court for tons, it was like over 40,000 women who sued, so it became a class action lawsuit against e-shore, and they were trying to do it in court and then trying to push legislation to protect women, and just anybody, like, from this kind of mistreatment from bigger corporations and doctors' offices. And that bill is still sitting. Like, it's not moving through House and Senate, and like, now these women are having to take a cut.
It's not in, it doesn't support capitalism to have all of these things checked, because it makes more money if you can just kind of scoot it in.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't sure, financial compensation for, some of these women literally losing their vagina, like their uterus, like getting hysterectomies as a result.
That's important, but
that's not gonna be enough.
It's not gonna be enough, because it doesn't save women in the future from having this same exact problem. But that's not what's going to be in the minds of a company that's just looking to make money.
For sure.
Because if they have to go through all of these different regulations or change their product, it's going to cost them. And if they can just keep selling the same stinking thing, whether or not it hurts women or not, it doesn't really matter.
And it's so frustrating because, well, one aspect being like, women make up the largest population of consumers. We spend the most in every type of retail sale. Medicine, clothes, body product, whatever it is, we spend the most money. So they should be gearing it more towards women. It should, if those are the numbers, then, if the pink tax shouldn't be a thing, a tampon tax shouldn't be a thing. You should be trying to find more ways to market towards women if they're spending the most money by making them happy, and that's most of the time not the case. And the other, ultimately sad reality of all of this is that us as average Joes should not have to go into, say, a doctor's office and expect to know as much as the doctor. Or go into, a lawyer and have to, do your research and know, you should just not be taken advantage of.
Right.
And, because that's not your responsibility. That's why someone else has a job. So,
it's one of those things that,
But we're stuck with that now.
It's so much work to have to go in every time you have a legal dispute, every time you have a doctor's problem, to have to research all of this stuff beforehand. It's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be expected that we have to do that, or that we have to do our own research to keep other people accountable.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, you're always having to do that, to go, this isn't okay to do. Yeah. Or even just, it's not even just in women, but it can be with minorities and,
for sure,
those who don't have the opportunity to be as educated as someone who has the money to pay for college. Things like that, where you find that a lot, that so many times you're just taken advantage of because they don't expect you to have the knowledge, and they don't expect you to have the time or the ability to look this stuff up.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, bad human beings.
Awful. Terrible. I don't know. Where are we at with this? So we have talked here for an hour. We've sat here for an hour.
And Mary and I could go forever.
We could go for, we'll probably go once we're off air. But, do you have, we've sort of kind of touched on a few, I guess, but a good, something to leave listeners with, with your medical journey of, trying to figure out, because this has become, I would say it's becoming a journey of you trying to figure out what this is. Do you have any parting advice for maybe someone that's going through the same thing?
Honestly, you have to fight for what you need. And don't just let a doctor decide what you need. Yeah. If you need to do your research, do your research. If you need to request certain type of testing that you believe might be necessary, then do that. And if you have to ask a lot of questions, do that. But, the thing that is really going to aid you the most is understanding what's going on. And understanding what you need out of it.
Yeah. And
so for my situation, I needed an understanding of what was going on with my period. It was even, you're still going to come across about difficulty because, some doctors don't know and they don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
But just fighting for what you need to have so that you can live an anxiety-free life. Because the thing is that for my particular case, especially right after getting married, it was just constant anxiety. Constant anxiety over, am I going to get a surprise pregnancy? Things like that. So, fight for what you need for peace of mind, and don't feel bad about it. If you offend a doctor, you might. But don't feel bad about doing that, because in the end, it's all about having what you need and feeling confident in yourself and confident in, how you feel about your cycle or your fertility for whatever reason. If it's, if you want to have kids and understand where your fertility is at, or if you're not wanting to have kids, or even if you just, it's neither of the two really, and you just want to understand. Yeah, you're going to have to fight for it. But do it because it's worth it. Yeah.
I love that. Could not have said it better. That was, yes, well done. I love it. love it. Do you, this is always like, do you have anything to promote? Do you have any social media that we could plug?
I am very anti-social media. I don't really like social media.
That's totally fine.
I would say I like the fab little bags. So if people, go for those. I think they're great. Then you can find them on Amazon. They don't deliver to all areas, I found out, but
I think that's as of recently.
Yeah, maybe because of COVID. I'm not sure, but go for those.
Yeah.
Nice. I like those.
Oh, so cool. Yes, we love fab bags.
Yes.
We love Martha. Yes. She's spectacular. You absolutely should get fab bags. Great promo.
Thank you.
She said she was telling me she experiences a lot of that, of a lot of people sharing it with their friends and then their friends liking it. So I talked to her about you. She was like so happy.
I shared it with a coworker of mine. She had, her dog ate 10 tampons from the trash can. And I shared that with her. I was like, you can put them in these little biodegradable bags and maybe they'll deter the dog from like smelling it and wanting to be interested in it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. There's a lot of different uses for them, or just, to have a little bit of peace of mind. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. I like them.
Yeah. No, yeah, she's great. Company's great. And they're super affordable. You get like 45 for like 14, 16 bucks. I don't remember. But it was very nice. Well, fuck it. We'll throw them in the description. Promote them. Why not?
Absolutely.
We love fat bags. Well, yeah. Well, if, say out of any blue moon, if a listener wants to share, maybe they're experiencing something similar, or, are you open to questions if I get one? All right.
If you got questions, I don't know how many I can answer, but I'm happy to give information where I have it.
Cool.
And if other people have like stories, experiences they want to share, or if they have information they want to give to the rest of the world, by all means. We all need the information. We'd all love to know.
I love it. All right, well, if you have that, you can email it at tampatalkwithmary@gmail.com. You can also, I don't know, if you don't got time for email, if that's old news for you, tampontalkwmary on Instagram. It's the same thing on Twitter. I really don't, I use my own personal, more so, period stock. You can also DM me on there. The Tampa Talk with Mary Instagram is a little MIA. It might start selling foot pics on there. We'll see how COVID goes. We'll see. Like us on Facebook. You can also message us on there. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, of course. Anytime.
This is spectacular.
And that was Claire. Isn't she great? She's wonderful. She's really a dear friend of mine, and she is one of my bridesmaids, so that's cool. But yeah, her writing is fantastic. I don't know if she has anything publicly available, but I will push her to make something public so you guys can see it. But yeah, so we're grateful for her to be on the show, and we're so grateful to the musical artist that we can feature on this episode, Bly Valentine. So super cool. They are an artist that does psychedelic pop. The track you're listening to is The Purpose of Dancing. That is available in the links below. You can get the album that this song is on their Bandcamp, as well as listen to their stuff on Spotify. So super cool. You should check them out, and we are so grateful to Bly for letting us feature them on the show. Takeaway. Overall, we keep it short, keep it long episode. You deserve the help that you walk into a medical office to receive. Fight for your own interests. Know that your feelings are validated. And if you need support, we're always at home for you. Because you're deserving of love, and you're deserving of answers when you are approached in a medical situation. I don't know. And not only are you deserving of answers, but before that you're deserving of respect. So say if a doctor doesn't have an answer, they at least have the energy and the respect to find one for your sake. So I hope that you find that with all your medical endeavors, your the world is crazy out there, and I'm really depressed these days. There's a lot going on in my life, and it's all happening at once, and it's all bad. But we're all this together, and we can always come back to Tampa and talk and have a good laugh. yeah. Well, that's it. We will see you next time on Time and Talk with Mary. You know where to find us. Bye-bye.